Luke, my friend, good afternoon. How are you, sir?
What's up, bro? I'm really good, thank you.
Good. Nice to see you. I appreciate you jumping on this morning and carving out some time to do this with me. I'll be very transparent. My intention for today is very simple, is simply to find out a bit more about, your experience of working with myself over the last 6 months inside the program, in the hope that it can help somebody else who is perhaps on the fence and a bit apprehensive of not just investing in myself, and my coaching program. Maybe they're apprehensive about working with another coach. And if, they watch this video and they see the power of coaching and they go and work with somebody else, then it's been time well spent. So let's start with yourself. Why don't you kind of introduce yourself and let everybody know who's watching, who you are, and what you do?
I'm Luke. I'm a top 2% podcaster, formerly a growth partner at a ClickFunnels award-winning company where we do around 150 to 300K a month. We have like 400 clients that have made 50K a month, so it's pretty dope. And then I also have my own private business coaching outside of that we're in process of super expanding right now. So yeah, that's what I do.
Nice, man. Yeah, I'm excited for the future as well. More on that to come.
More on that.
Absolutely. So I want you to, yeah, perhaps cast your mind back to when we first started working together. I remember it very well because I was actually skiing. So yeah, cast your mind back to when we first started working with one another. Why don't you kind of share with everybody what your life and business was like before we started doing some work?
Yeah, I remember. I like tracking habits and tracking things, and I was in process of working on my sleep. And I had this sleep app that said that I had 18 hours of sleep debt. And I had just, I was traveling. So I'd just gone from Colombia to Brazil. And I was just so angry all the time, like all the time. And I have such a larger than life personality, but like behind closed doors, like I remember being in Brazil and there was like flies going around and I was like, why are there so many fucking flies in it? Like it was so much, there was so much just dysregulation within myself. And the business was up and down. I was doing things that were serving me, weren't serving me. But the just consistent lack of care for myself was really um it was just, yeah, it was causing a lack of me not being able to reach my potential, which is like one of the biggest insecurities that I found out coming through your program. So
Mm.
yeah, that's where I would say I was at. I also was seriously struggling in all of my relationships in terms of romantic relationships. I didn't feel like I was the person who was ready to be in a relationship. Um, so that was a challenge as well. So yeah, that's I would say at least a good portion of it for sure.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you for yeah, being vulnerable as always and sharing. Was there, I'm curious to know, you've shared kind of the issues with the sleep, the relationships, kind of, self-sabotaging tendencies, not taking care of yourself, etc. Was there a particular catalyst that made you reach out for some support?
I mean, I saw your content, and the day I saw your content, I was like, I know that I want to work with this guy. Um, December, I had a big month in my business, so I did have some spare cash flow, and I thought this is probably going to be it. I'm trying to think. There was definitely a time when I got to Brazil, um, because I think we had the call within the first 1 or 2 days of me being in Brazil. So I'd clearly decided in Colombia that I wanted to work with you. Um, I think it might have been the fact that I was working with a different coach and I knew that you were getting coached by him and I knew that his coaching was great. So I knew that your coaching was going to be really good as well.
Mhm.
Um, but catalyst wise, I think I knew from the moment that I dropped into your content that I was going to work with you. It was just a matter of time. And I guess my only self-sabotaging patterns like continuing to happen because it's not really to me, you're never really ready for the coaching per se. It's just like at what point does stepping into coaching with you or with somebody else
Mhm.
become a lesser pain than the other thing that I was doing? And the other thing, which was destroying my relationships and dating life and stuff like that, and my business, I was like, okay, it's time. Let's do something about this.
Mm. No, it's interesting you mention that because we're both coaches, we're both in this space, and you often hear people, when this happens, then I'll do it. When this happens, then I'll do it. And it's like the cycle of avoidance. We'll do it later, later turns into tomorrow, tomorrow turns into next week turns into next year. So yeah, it
Mm.
sounds like, and I might have this wrong, but correct me if I have. It sounds like those are an accumulation of different things happening. And once we started kind of communicating, you'd already decided, I am doing this. It's just a case of when.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly that.
Mm. Okay, perfect. And I'm very curious to know then, you've been inside of the program. You and I worked together for 6 months, and you were a great client to have. And I sincerely mean that because you applied yourself, you showed up in the community, you worked through the portal, which, needs to be done. But I would love to kind of get your take on the program in the sense of I'm curious to know what were your main takeaways? Because we've had a lot of people go through the program. And of course, human beings, as you know, they're very complex, very nuanced, and some people prefer different elements of the program. So yeah, I'm curious to know kind of what were your takeaways specifically.
Yeah. First of all, I wanted to say thank you for your attraction of your coaching staff. Like BB was phenomenal. I really like she really is a true out and out coach in terms of like she asks so many questions that it really brings out the best in you, as do you yourself. I really like the start of the program where it was talking about why you might be self-sabotaging from like almost like a personality standpoint, and then having the cognitive distortion breakdowns and having the quiz on it. I really like the quiz. Like a lot of coaches I found don't do sort of any quiz things. They just throw you a course and then it's like go through it and then action it. But the
Mhm.
fact that there was an interactive quiz where we put it out and you give us the results, it gave me a level of accountability, but it also allowed me to fully learn what I was going through.
Mhm.
Um, so that was really, really helpful. I really liked how you structured like the shame and the guilt part, like inappropriate and appropriate guilt. Um, that shifted a lot. I realized that I'd been putting a lot of inappropriate guilt from other people onto myself, where I'd neither deserved or needed to do that. And then coming up towards the end, one of the most life-changing exercises was your 5-step framework with the reworking the beliefs.
Mhm.
I've done the class, like I've done a lot of the reworking limiting belief stuff before. Like I was a mindset coach myself for a bit. So like I am used to doing that, but the way you did it, which with the evidence and um actually feeling those emotions, it's made me actually a lot more emotionally aware, which even from a dating perspective, women have appreciated that I have a large emotional vocabulary. So that's really helped me as well.
Oh man, that's so nice to hear. Of course, it's my program. I'm very biased. I think it's great, but this is what matters, right? Actually getting the feedback from clients who have been through it and benefited from it. So yeah, the assessments, the quizzes, and all of the frameworks in there, just hearing you even talk about them kind of, makes me smile because it's refreshing. You know yourself, we work really hard as coaches, not just myself, yourself, and every other coach. And to hear people out there finding the things that we've created valuable and helpful and allow them to kind of move in the direction that they want to and need to. Yeah, it means a lot. So thank you. And I'll certainly pass on my regards to BB. She'll be delighted with that feedback. So yeah, thank you very much. In terms
Yeah.
of your kind of time in the program, I know you've just kind of discussed the mental models that, you found really useful. I'm curious to know, like, how has your life changed now as opposed to when we first started working with one another in January?
I mean, so much happened. So much happened working together. I got into a relationship that was really beautiful for its time being. Did self-sabotage pop up and sacrifice and mess it up? Partially, but there was also some unalignment. But actually, the just actual genuine confidence to be able to attract somebody and choose somebody that I can love, as well as step into the person I need to be in order to be a father in the future. Um, Taking control of my finances has been huge, as has just the anger. I'm so much more regulated now, because like this week's been a little wild with a new transition and a new startup thing. Well, these past few weeks, and I had an operation, like all sorts of things all happening at once. But it really allowed me to stay grounded. A lot of the activities and practices you've given me, even yesterday, as I was out on a walk, I was walking and I was in nature, and I had this belief pop up that was like, you shouldn't have gone for a walk. You should have just got to work. And I was like, no, let's do these 5 perspective shifts that Sean's given. And I was like, oh, actually, this was really helpful for me. And then when I got back, I had a message from somebody that I'd done a free visualization with, and he just signed a client at 5K. And I was like, that's so incredible. And it just kind of reminded me the importance of me having my own practice of looking after myself and caring for myself, and what that can do for the business. So yeah, it's transformative.
Nice. Yeah. It's interesting how our kind of brain just crafts this narrative, telling us what we should and shouldn't do. And, for anyone who's kind of watching this at the beginning of the program, Luke was referring to the assessments and the quizzes. This is where we kind of identify our self-sabotage and triggers. And a lot of them are those cognitive distortions. They're just flawed thinking patterns. But yeah, they rear their ugly heads every single day. And, we have to consistently do the work. And as you just mentioned, you have been doing the work. So it's nice to hear. So I only really have one or two other questions to ask, Luke, really. Of course, we have a lot of people that we speak with every day, every week, and every month about the program. And I would love to kind of get your honest opinion on this, in the sense of, if there was maybe somebody who was a little on the fence, a little apprehensive of jumping into the program with ourselves, what sort of advice would you give to them?
I'm going to give 2 bits of advice. One is going to be the softer one, and the second is going to be a little bit more tough love. The first one is, well, what's the alternative to you not doing this? It's like you just continue in the same patterns that you're experiencing, that were, destroying your business, are destroying your sales or your marketing or your coaching clients. Like, you might have even lost money because of, you most likely have lost money because of this. So it's like, what's the alternative? You're right now just valuing your money over your time, and money comes and goes. Just stick it on a credit card. Like, most credit cards these days have like 15 months, even if you have poor credit. Like, I didn't have great credit when I started with Sean. Now I have a perfect credit score. So, like, what's the alternative? Like, do you want to just keep going on like you are? And the second one is just pull the fucking trigger. Like, stop fucking around. Like, stop fucking around. Like, do you actually want everything in your life to improve? Or do you want to just keep going along? Like, maybe you don't value yourself high enough right now. And that's okay. You have to be able to accept that, and accept that Sean is going to change that. I'm over $100,000, about £85,000 into investments right now. So I'm not new to investing into coaching, therapy, hypnotherapy, all this stuff. Sean has been one of the most life-changing people that I've ever met. He's there at your side. He's coaching people at the side. He has a beautiful community as well. So you're not alone in this. But I can guarantee by yourself, you are alone. And it's the question of, do you want to continue that? Because if you don't, pull the trigger. Do something about it. Stop talking the talk and start walking the walk. Everybody in their right space can say, oh, I want to make $1 million a month, or I want to invest in Sean, or I want to do this. But it's the actions that are going to change. Like, fully commit, because your life 6 months from now is going to look totally different. Versus, how many people do we know that say that they're going to do things, and then a year later you come back into contact and be like, oh mate, how are you getting on? I know we talked before, and they're in the exact same place, and it's like, we could have been fixed by now. So, yeah, that's my advice.
Oh, thank you, man. That's yeah, that's that means a lot to me, and you know that. And I know you've been flying my flag since we've started working together. I mean, you've referred over 3 or 4 people, so that speaks volumes in itself. But, you know, I know that you've worked with many coaches, and to hear you speak so highly of me really does mean a lot. So thank you. I really appreciate it. And I think where I've noticed, Luke, because we help people with self-sabotage, what they can tend to do is sabotage themselves, getting help with self-sabotage. So, yeah, hopefully someone hears what you've said and, as you said, pulls the trigger. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I look forward to meeting you in person, my friend.
Of course, man. It's going to be a joy. I'm excited to connect with you as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.